Thanks for staying with us. I'm Eric Bolling in for Bill O'Reilly. In the Factor follow-up segment tonight, President Obama weighing in tonight on the release of the declassified report on Russian hacking. The president says it's clear the Russians meddled and had some words for anyone who doubts it.
One of the things that I am concerned about is the degree to which we've seen a lot of commentary lately where there are Republicans or pundits or cable commentators who seem to have more confidence in Vladimir Putin than fellow Americans because those fellow Americans are Democrats. That cannot be.
Does that include the president-elect?
What I will say is that, and I said this right after the election, we have to remind ourselves we're on the same team. Vladimir Putin's not on our team.
Joining us now from Houston to analyze, national security analyst Arash Aramesh, and with us in studio, Scott Uehlinger, a former CIA operations officer who worked in the former Soviet Union for 12 years. I want to get with you because you're the right guy at the right time. Hang on, though. Arash, I'm reading this report. I'm looking for the smoking gun. I can't find the gun, and it ain't smoking.
Well, if you read the report carefully, you will see that
that's
three things are mentioned.
I didn't read it carefully enough. That's what you're saying. Go ahead. I did, but go ahead. Let's hear what you have to say.
Well, you know, one thing they teach in law school is critical reading, and I'm very glad I went to law school. So, but when you read critically and carefully, and you analyze,
you know what they teach in high school? When you have a theory, you have to test the theory, and you have to prove the theory. I'm still looking for the prove part of this theory.
And there is a difference, Eric, between intelligence and evidence. We're talking about an intelligence report. The NSA, the FBI, and the CIA, through the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, came out with this report. This is a declassified version of a much more detailed and classified version of a report that says three things. A, there was an organized, orchestrated effort by high-level Russian officials, including President Vladimir Putin, to try to influence our election. B, Russian intelligence and Russian hackers partook and took part in this hack. And C, we have to make sure that going forward we have the necessary tools in place to prevent such attacks on our democracy in our country.
True. I'll give you A, B, and C. The problem, Scott, is that these are, again, theories and hypotheses without any evidence to prove it.
Right. I mean, I've reviewed the report, and it's certainly, put it this way, most of the things I see in this report, these conditions existed at least 10 years ago. This administration has never indicated an interest in Russian operations against this country until it seems to have hurt the Democratic Party. Now suddenly they have become aware of the Russian threat a day late and a dollar short at the 11th hour.
Okay, Arash, what's new in this report? I mean, Scott points out, by the way, there are a lot of countries doing this. I mean, we know at least 4 or 5 actors who are actively trying to do the exact same thing.
You know, Scott and myself, you lived and worked in ex-Soviet Union. We worked in Moldova, Ukraine, Belarus, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. We're very familiar with Russian efforts to try to undermine fair and free elections in those countries, except Belarus, because there is no fair and free elections in Belarus. But again, in Ukraine, Moldova, and in Baltic countries,
Arash, what's new in the report?
Very intimately familiar. And if you remember, the U.S., Scott just said that President Obama had no interest in helping anti-Russian forces in the U.S. around the world. That is not true. Look at what we did in Ukraine.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my God. You're down a rabbit hole. That law school thing is taking you all the way up 6th Avenue and take a left on 57th. Go ahead, Scott. Tell me, what's new in this report?
The thing that's new is that, for once, the Russians have been trying to do this for many years, and they have not been effective at it. The reason they were perhaps more effective at it, if we are to believe this report, is because Hillary Clinton provided them an ideal target. She compromised herself totally, and it says here that the Russians worked to undermine her credibility. She undermined her own credibility, and it was merely the Russians that revealed it. The Russians have never claimed, nor have the Democrats claimed, that Russia manufactured this material, this email material. It's all genuine Democratic email.
Arash, because I'm a nice guy and I like you a lot, I'll give you 15 seconds. Final thought.
That is simply not true. Unfortunately, the Russians found a very good ally in President-elect Trump, and that is very sad. And Scott, here's the moral dilemma.
That's it, brother. I got to go. I'm sorry, Arash. Scott, thank you very much.